Welcome friend, I'm so happy that you're here. If we haven't met before, I'm Agatha. I'm a knitter and a crocheter from Minnesota in the United States, and I am so happy that you're here because in the last couple of months, I've started a lot of projects, I've finished a lot of projects, and I've bought a ton of yarn in preparation to make Christmas gifts. Now, I'm personally not the type of person where I'm able to make Christmas gifts every single year. Usually I'll space them out every other year or so, but this year is the year. I am so excited to be making a ton of gifts. So I'm really excited to share them with you. Let's get right into it. Basically, this is the third time I've recorded this video because yesterday I was wearing these fake eyelashes and I recorded for a whole hour, and then I moved the videos to my computer and I realized that my eyelashes were hanging on to dear life the entire time. It was very, very painful. And then I tried giving them a try again today, but they're a mess. I took them off, so let's wrap up this video before I lose my mind. So let's start from the beginning, which is the end of summer. When I went to the Minnesota State Fair, I did mention it in one of my previous videos, but I had a pretty bad fall. I fell really hard on really hard concrete, and I fell with my left hand first, and especially my ring finger took the brunt of the fall. Even if it's been 2.5 months, if I extend my finger, I can still feel a tinge of pain there. So in all of the month of September, especially in the beginning, I tried really hard to give my hands a break, to not be knitting or crocheting, in order to give it time to heal. But clearly, after reviewing all of the projects that I started unfinished on that month, I did a terrible job, and it shows because it's been 2.5 months and it still hurts. But the month started with me casting on this project. This is a super popular pattern called the 6-Day Star Blanket by Betty McKnit. And since it was the beginning of the fall, I went with this really beautiful Karen Cinnamon Swirl Cakes yarn in their colorway Tortoiseshell. This yarn is technically an acquisition because this was originally my yarn. I had it in my stash for quite a while, but then earlier this year, I gifted it to my sister when she decided she wanted to learn how to crochet. I gave her 3 whole skeins of this. But when she moved in August, turns out that she had not touched this yarn at all. So I reclaimed it, it's back in my stash, and it is a beautiful color. I am really happy to have it back in my stash. And in the beginning of September, when we were all just starting to get those fall vibes, I thought that this was the perfect yarn to get in the fall mood. And I think it just works up so nicely with this pattern. Obviously, if you can't tell, I abandoned it for several weeks, but I did pick it back up earlier this week when I needed a break from all of the other things that I've been working on. And this is a very popular pattern for a reason. It is very fun to work on. Another yarn that I reclaimed, that I had gifted my sister and took it back when she moved, was 3 skeins of this Lion brand A Star Is Born Nap Time yarn in their colorway navy. I'm also very happy to have it back in my stash, and I was inspired by Kayla at Chromatic Crochet, who is very quickly becoming one of my favorite YouTubers. Her videos are just so fun to watch. I got inspired by her to make a mesh sweater or mesh top. So it is the entire body and sleeves are crocheted. I did knit some ribbing on the neck. Personally, every time that I try to crochet ribbing, it just never looks good. So it's just easier for me to do it with knitting. So I did knitted ribbing on the neck. I also knitted some ribbing on the sleeves. I even made thumb holes, which I am very happy about. The only thing that's left on this sweater is to do the ribbing on the other sleeve. I don't think I'm gonna do any ribbing on the bottom of the body. But that's all that's needed to finish this one. I haven't picked it up in a very long time. I'm not exactly sure why I'm putting it off. While I was working on this project, I did run out of the 3 skeins that I had grabbed from my sister's stash, so I had to go to Joann's and buy a 4th skein of it. And during that trip, I bought a lot more yarn than just that. So in Kayla's video on how she made her mesh top, she was using this yarn, which was new at the time, which is Bernat Lattice, and I saw it, and of course I had to buy myself some. This is their black and white colorway. This is charcoal, and I had started a mesh sweater using these yarns, but I think that the pattern and the combination of these colors just was not looking good at all. So I did frog it, clearly. And I still want to make myself a sweater out of this yarn. Maybe I'll just make it a granny stitch sweater. I think that that could look really cute. But I did feel like it needed an extra color to really bring these two together, which is why I bought a 3rd color of it. This is Heather Mix, and I am not the type of person to wear pink, but it was on clearance and I feel like I can make it work. So maybe one day in the future this will become a sweater. And then the next project that I worked in September, in that Joann's trip, I also saw that Bernat was, I guess, re-releasing their home decor maker yarn or whatever it was called. So this is called Bernat Maker, and I bought a single skein of it. I wasn't exactly sure what to make with it, but I ended up going with this really nice bag pattern. This is called the Maker Market Tote by Selena Baca, who I hope I'm saying her name correctly, but this pattern worked insanely fast. I was able to make this in just 5 hours. I was really worried about running out of yarn the entire time. I definitely could have used up more of it. I have a quarter of the entire skein still in a ball, but I'm very happy with how this one worked up. And this designer has a ton of different bag patterns in her Ravelry page. If you haven't heard of her before, or if you are considering maybe making a bag, I would definitely recommend her. I am very excited to make a lot more of her patterns. Now, you'd think that starting 3 or 4 projects when I'm supposedly letting my hand heal is a lot. I did start another project in the month of September. And basically, it was around the end of September where I finally decided that I am gonna be making Christmas gifts this year. And I knew that I wanted to buy a really nice, luxurious yarn to start making some of my gifts, and I eventually landed on Knit Picks Swish Worsted. This is the squishiest, nicest yarn I think I've ever worked with. It is 100% superwash fine merino wool, and Knit Picks has it in so many different colors. I am really not that good at picking colors, which is one of the reasons why I went with Knit Picks, because they sell this yarn in 50-gram balls in different color packs. So they'll sell you 4 skeins in 4 different colors, and I bought 4 color packs. I bought 2 of the brown and off-white color pack, and then I also bought a rosy pinks pack and a green and blue color pack. So yeah, that's 16 50-gram skeins of it that I purchased. Unfortunately, in my package, they did miss one of these off-white tan colors that I had ordered, so I contacted them because I needed more. Instead of sending me just the one that they had missed, they sent me 2. So that was really, really nice of them, and I appreciate it really much. I've already shown it to you guys, but I started this granny square scarf that I'm making. I have 12 squares of it right here. These colors are just so freaking gorgeous, especially this really deep wine red. I love it so much. And even though I started this one in late September, the reason why I haven't just finished it, it's so close to being done, is because I am really scared of the color bleeding and just staining this off-white that I've got right next to it. So I did make myself a little extra square so that I can wash it and test it, but I've just been putting this off. Honestly, I'm just scared. I need to work up to it, and I haven't quite been able to work up the courage just yet. This is my last project that I started in September. And it was at that time when I really came to the decision that I'm going to be making scarves for everyone. In previous years, when I've made gifts, I figured out that the best way for me to do it is I will pick a single thing that everyone is gonna be getting, so that way it's almost like a factory line situation. I'm able to just make a ton of them. But I also knew that not everyone's style is granny square scarves. So I ended up going with the Simple Thing scarf pattern by Melinda Brell. My understanding is that it's a Sophie scarf dupe, but I don't own that pattern, so I can't say that for sure. But it's a garter stitch, I-cord integrated scarf with 2 points at each end. I am in awe with how fun this scarf is to work up. And if you need proof that I really enjoyed working up this pattern, here it is. I managed to work up 5 whole scarves in the month of October, which to me is very, very surprising because I am not the kind of person where I'm able to make the same pattern over and over and over again. So in early October, my husband and I took a little day trip to Duluth, Minnesota. And obviously, if I'm going to another city, I need to check out what yarn stores are available, so I went to the Yarn Harbor, which is a really cute shop. I'll definitely be going again. And there I found this yarn. This is by the Fiber Co. It is their And Make yarn in their DK weight version. This is 55% wool, 35% alpaca, and the rest of the contents are linen, which are those white bits of fabric that you can see there. It almost looks like vegetable matter, but it's actually just the linen. And this yarn really surprised me because even though it has a really beautiful halo, it does not shed at all. This is the very first scarf that I worked up. This brown is their colorway Mr. Toad. The second one that I worked up, I used 2 colors held together. The gray is called Careless Whisper, and the white is called Betty White. This is the squishiest thing ever, and I worked this up in 2 whole days. And it's a full-on scarf. I mean, look at that. Isn't that cute? And then the third scarf that I worked up was this one in this beautiful pomegranate red. This colorway is called Cherries and Berries. I did buy a 5th skein of yarn in the Yarn Harbor. This is the colorway Soft Love. I eventually figured out this is way too close to skin tone to make for a nice scarf. So I'm thinking instead what I'm gonna do is maybe some I-cords and then I can tie them up into little bows. I think that that would be really cute. And now for the next 2 scarves that I worked up, these yarns I actually bought when I went into the fancy part of the metro area where I live in, into a yarn store called Harriet and Alice. This is a yarn that I had never used before, but it was on sale, so of course I had to go for it. These were also $7.50 each after the discount. I'm gonna struggle with the name of this yarn, but it's West Yorkshire Spinners, and the yarn is called Bo Peep Pure. This is the colorway Black Currant, and this one is River. This yarn is also super squishy. I think that this is comparable to the Knit Picks Swish, but this yarn did have a really big negative to it that I was able to figure out. So by the time that I bound off this scarf on this tip, I realized that with friction and everything else, the other tip of the scarves were felting. And that is not something that I experienced with any of the other yarns that I had worked. It is a very nice yarn, but considering that it felt so easily, I'm surprised that this yarn is actually marketed as being good for baby garments. Unfortunately, I don't think that this is a yarn that I would buy again, just because if it's felting just from working it up, I don't think that this yarn is gonna hold up for very long. So after that experience with the West Yorkshire Spinners yarn, I knew that I wanted to go with a yarn that was gonna hold up for a little bit longer than just by working up the project. And I ended up going to a different yarn store. If you live west of the metro area and you want to go to a yarn store that's gonna have a lot of available yarns, I would definitely recommend to go to the Silver Creek Cabin. It is very unassuming from the outside, but when you go in, it is packed with yarn. It just has yarn spilling from everywhere in the best way possible, and the store is surprisingly really deep. And I ended up going with this Plymouth yarn, Encore yarn. It's 75% acrylic and 25% wool. And this is going to the guys in the family that just need something that's gonna hold up for a lot longer. So I started with this very bright high-vis orange. This one is going to the family member that's super into hunting. Also, these come in 100-gram skeins, so the scarves end up being way longer than the other ones that I've worked up until now. I think that this one is gonna be a big favorite. And I just finished the second one earlier this morning with the other color that I bought. This one is in their color spun variation. It just looks green from far away. I think the camera is able to pick up the blue better than the naked eye can, but it does have a strand of blue in there. But the other ones that I bought was this gray that looks very brown on camera, and then I also bought it in this brown tweed. So at this point, when I went into this yarn store and I bought these yarns, we were already in November. I have been working on things for other people for so long that I felt like I needed to get something for myself so that I could make myself something after this busy making season is over. So I bought myself this beautiful Plymouth yarn called Electrolyte. It is 75% merino wool, 20% nylon, and 5% lurex, which I believe is what gives it that really pretty sparkle. I don't think the camera is able to capture it as well, but this yarn is so freaking beautiful. When I started my knitting and crochet journey, the ranunculus was already very popular and I fell for it right away, but I have still not made myself one of them. So I think that this yarn is gonna work up into a really pretty ranunculus. And we're almost done, okay? But I also bought, if you hadn't known already, this Red Heart all-in-one flower power yarn. This is Daisy Dew, this is Black Dahlia, and this one is in Dried Bouquet. If you haven't watched my video on how I worked up those squares, spoiler alert, they work up really well, but I will be linking that video in the top right corner. You can go watch it. This is my last true acquisition. So basically, earlier in the summer, my husband's grandmother passed away, and she was an avid knitter and crocheter that hadn't been able to knit or crochet for quite some time because of carpal tunnel. But when she passed away, I inherited all of her yarn and knitting and crochet tools and everything else, and it's too much to take out, and it's all acrylic yarn. Some of the skeins still have the label on them, and it's the Walmart brand called Mainstays. So I've been trying to figure out what I'm gonna be making with all of this yarn. I think that what I want to make is Christmas ornaments for the entire family. I'm thinking that I can make small sweaters and mittens and maybe even slippers. And I think that the family is really going to appreciate to have something made out of Grandma's yarn to remember her by. I think it'll be a really nice memento. But other than the yarn, there is also some other really cool things in here. This How to Knit and How to Crochet booklet is dated 1959. And clearly this was a big favorite of hers because I also have photocopies of patterns that are in here along with everything else that's in this bag. And there's also this magazine dated at around the same time, Jack Frost magazine, and it is all mitten patterns. So this is the last acquisition that I have to show you guys today. That was a whole lot to go through, but I still have a long ways to go. I'm a little over halfway all of the scarves that I need to make, and I also have all of those sweaters and mitten ornaments as well. I'm actually going to be visiting my sister in Florida this coming week, so I think it would be really fun to do like a how much can I make in a 2-week time frame type of vlog. So I think that that is what's gonna be coming out next. Start thinking on your bets on how many things I can finish in just a 2-week time period. So thankfully, we finally made it to the end of this video. I had a lot to show you guys, and I appreciate you so much for still being here. You made it to the end. Thank you so much. If you're looking forward to the videos that will be coming out next, please consider liking and subscribing. I hope that you were inspired to make something that you love, and I hope that I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.